My boyfriend cheated with my best friend for years. My whole friend group knew and laughed at me. But when I caught them in my car the day before her wedding, I walked up to the altar and exposed everything in front of 200 guests. What happened next? Destroyed them all. I'm 28 years old. I run my father's office supplies company. And 2 years ago, I lived through something that basically destroyed me but also saved me, if that makes sense. The thing is, I was with Brandon for 8 years, 8 complete years of my life. We lived together for the last 4, and I thought we were going to end up married with kids and that whole story, you know? But it turns out that while I was planning our future, he was busy rolling around with my best friend. And no, it's not like I found out because someone told me, or because I found a suspicious message. I discovered it in the most humiliating way possible, and my entire friend group knew and was laughing at me behind my back. But, well, I guess I should start from the beginning, so this makes sense. Brandon and I met in college. We were part of this group of 7 friends, 4 guys and 3 girls, like the classic friend group that does everything together. I was roommates with Victoria in the dorm, and she was my best friend, or so I thought. We went out together, studied together, told each other everything, literally everything. Or at least that's what I thought. After college, Brandon and I started dating officially, and things were going well. I mean, we had our ups and downs like every couple, but I was in love and I thought he was too. We moved in together like 4 years ago, got a small but nice apartment, adopted 2 cats. You know, we did normal couple things. The issue is that I've always wanted to get married and have kids. I never hit it. I told Brandon from the beginning. And he always told me yes, of course, that eventually we were going to get married. But every time I brought up the topic seriously, he would change the conversation or tell me it wasn't the right time. At first, I understood it. I mean, we were young. We had to establish ourselves professionally. Whatever. But after 8 years together, 4 living under the same roof, I started to wonder what the hell he was waiting for. My parents constantly asked me when we were going to get married. My friends were starting to get married and have babies, and I was still there waiting for Brandon to decide he was ready. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. Seriously. Like Brandon always found excuses to go out with friends without me, or Victoria always had some reason for us to meet just the 2 of us, but then someone else from the group would casually show up. But I trusted them completely. Like it never crossed my mind that something weird could be happening. I suffer from migraines pretty often, since I was like 20 years old, and sometimes they're so bad that I have to stay home lying down in a dark room, and Brandon knew this perfectly, because he had seen my attacks 1,000 times. So we get to 2 years ago. Victoria was going to get married. She met this guy, William, who was literally 60 years older than her, came from a super rich family, and Victoria was super excited about the dayless wedding. It seemed weird to me from the beginning because Victoria had always been kind of a gold digger. I'm not going to lie, but I never thought she would go that far. Still, I was happy for her. I mean, she was my best friend. I was going to be her maid of honor. I had helped plan the whole wedding. The ceremony was going to be at a super elegant hotel, one of those that costs a fortune just to step in the lobby. The wedding day arrived. Well, technically the day before, because there was a rehearsal dinner and all that stuff. I was super excited. I had bought a new dress, got my hair done, everything. But then I got a migraine. And when I say migraine, it's not a simple headache. It's like feeling someone is stabbing a knife in your eye and the light burns your retina. I told Brandon I wasn't going to be able to go to the rehearsal dinner, to please excuse me to Victoria, and I stayed in our hotel room lying down with the curtains closed. Around 9 at night, the migraine started to calm down a bit, but I realized I hadn't brought my rescue pills. I'm a disaster at remembering those things. I always forget something. So I decided to go down to the parking lot because I had seen a pharmacy like 2 blocks from the hotel. I thought I could walk quickly, buy the pills, and come back before the migraine got worse again. I put on some jeans and a hoodie, didn't even look in the mirror, and went down. The hotel parking lot was underground, super big, with little light, like the classic horror movie parking lot. I was walking toward the exit when I saw my car. That blue 2015 Honda Civic I had bought with my first paycheck and took care of like it was a baby. And there was someone inside. At first I thought it was thieves or something and almost screamed, but then I looked better and recognized Brandon. He was in the driver's seat, and there was someone else with him. My first thought was, how weird. Why is Brandon in my car? He doesn't even have the keys because I had them in my pocket. I got closer, walking slowly, because something didn't feel right. You know, that instinct that tells you something very bad is about to happen. And then I saw them. Brandon and Victoria, kissing. It wasn't a friendly kiss or a goodbye kiss or anything that could be misinterpreted. It was one of those kisses with tongue, with hands everywhere, with Victoria practically sitting on top of him. I froze. Literally couldn't move a muscle. I could only watch as my boyfriend of 8 years was making out with my best friend in my own car the day before her wedding. I don't know how long I stood there. It was probably only seconds, but it felt like hours. My heart was beating so hard I thought I was going to throw up right there in the parking lot. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit the car. I wanted to do something, but my body just wouldn't respond. And then Victoria looked toward where I was, and for a second our eyes met. She went pale, pushed Brandon away, and I finally reacted. I turned around and started running toward the elevator. I don't even know how I got there. I just remember running and feeling like I couldn't breathe properly. I went up to the floor where the rooms were, but I didn't want to go back to mine because I knew Brandon was going to come after me. I was walking down the hallway, not knowing what to do, when I heard voices coming from one of the rooms. The door was half open and I recognized the voices. It was the rest of the friend group. Melissa, one of the girls in the group, was talking and saying something like, "I swear it's incredible that Olivia hasn't noticed yet." And everyone laughed. I got closer to the door, hiding against the wall like in the movies, and started listening to the whole conversation. It turns out that everyone, absolutely all my supposed friends, knew that Brandon was cheating on me with Victoria. Not only did they know it, they found it funny. Melissa was making jokes about it, saying things like, "Poor Olivia, so busy with her little business that she doesn't see what's in front of her." Another one of the guys, I think it was James, said something like, "It's that Brandon is a genius. He has Olivia paying half the rent and cooking for him while he has fun with Victoria. It's the perfect plan." And everyone was laughing. Everyone was participating in the conversation like it was the most normal thing in the world. They talked about how they had covered for Brandon when he had to make up excuses to see me, about how Victoria would tell them intimate details, about how I was the fool of the group who didn't notice anything. I stood there listening for I don't know how long, feeling how each word was like a punch in the stomach. Not only had Brandon and Victoria betrayed me, the entire group of people I had trusted for years had betrayed me. People I had traveled with, celebrated birthdays with, shared important moments of my life with. And they had all been laughing at me behind my back, probably for months or who knows how long. In that moment, something changed in me. You know? Like I went from being devastated and wanting to cry to being completely furious. I felt this super weird mental clarity, like my whole brain focused on one thing. I wasn't going to let them get away with it. I wasn't going to be the fool who cries and leaves quietly while they continued with their happy lives. Victoria was going to get married the next day, was going to have her perfect wedding with her expensive dress and her elegant ceremony, and all my ex-friends were going to be there celebrating while I became the group's joke forever. Well, no, sir. That wasn't going to happen. I walked away from that door and went back to my room. Brandon still hadn't arrived. He was probably still downstairs with Victoria trying to decide what to do. I sat on the bed and started planning. I knew I had to act normal. That if they realized I knew they were going to change their plans or make up some excuse or who knows what. So I decided I was going to pretend I hadn't seen anything, that I was going to continue with the wedding as if nothing happened, and that I was going to wait for the perfect moment to destroy them all. Brandon arrived like half an hour later, all nervous and sweating, asking how my migraine was. I told him much better, that I had taken some pills, and that I was ready for tomorrow. He looked super relieved, like he thought I hadn't seen anything. That night we slept in the same bed, him trying to hug me and me feeling nauseous every time he touched me. But I kept my composure. The next morning, I got up early, got ready, put on my bridesmaid dress, did my makeup, acted like the perfect friend and the perfect girlfriend. The ceremony was going to be at 4 p.m. in the hotel garden. It was a beautiful place. Honestly, with white flowers everywhere and chairs decorated with ivory ribbons. There were like 200 guests. All important. People, William's rich family, college friends, co-workers. Victoria looked radiant in her wedding dress that probably cost more than my car, and William was standing there waiting for her in his elegant suit, having no idea who he was marrying. I was standing next to the other bridesmaids, smiling for photos, greeting people, behaving perfectly normal. Melissa asked me if I was okay, and I told her, of course, that I was excited for Victoria. Brandon was sitting in the front rows with the rest of the group, looking at me with that smile that now made me sick. The ceremony started. Victoria's father walked her down the aisle. Her father was there completely unaware of the fact that his daughter was marrying an old man for money while sleeping with my boyfriend. Like, the irony was incredible. And the officiant started with all the typical wedding speech. I waited patiently. The officiant talked about love, commitment, honesty. He almost laughed in his face when he said that. And it came time for the vows. Victoria said her vows first. A whole super fake speech about true love and eternal happiness. And I just thought, wait, it's almost your turn to speak. Then the officiant asked if anyone had any reason why these two shouldn't get married. You know, that part that's always at weddings but nobody takes seriously because nothing ever happens. I raised my hand. The entire garden went silent. 200 people turned to look at me at the same time, and I walked to the front with my bridesmaid dress and my bouquet of flowers. The officiant looked confused. William looked annoyed. Victoria turned as white as her dress, and Brandon got up from his seat like he was about to run toward me. But I stood in front of all those guests, took a deep breath, and started talking. I told everyone present that I was sorry to interrupt, but that I believed William deserved to know the truth before getting married. I told them that Victoria, the beautiful bride standing there, had been having an affair with my boyfriend Brandon for who knows how long. I pointed at Brandon in the audience, so everyone knew who I was talking about. I told them I had seen them the night before in my car, kissing like there was no tomorrow, and that our entire friend group knew about it and had been lying to me and making fun of me. Victoria started screaming that I was crazy, that I was making things up because I was jealous of her wedding, that I had always been a bitter person. Brandon tried to say something, but William interrupted him. William turned to Victoria and asked her if it was true. Super calm, like chillingly calm. Victoria tried to deny it. But I think my satisfied face made it clear to her that I had proof or something, because she started stuttering and contradicting herself. Victoria's parents were horrified. William's mother fainted. Literally, they had to bring a doctor, and the entire garden became chaos. William simply took off his microphone, looked at Victoria with total contempt and told her, "The deal is over," and left. Just like that. He walked straight to the hotel, leaving Victoria standing there in her $1,000 wedding dress, crying and screaming. I turned toward where Brandon was sitting and saw that he and the entire friend group were looking at me with expressions of total shock, like they couldn't believe I had done that. Melissa looked like she was going to throw up. James was red with fury, and Brandon looked like he didn't know if he wanted to kill me or run away. I left the bouquet of flowers on the ground, took off the high heels that were killing my feet, and walked barefoot through the entire garden to the parking lot. Behind me, I heard people shouting, Victoria sobbing, someone trying to calm the guests, but I didn't turn around once. I got in my car, which, by the way, I was never going to be able to look at the same way after what happened there, and left. I had packed all my things from the room that I all day, in morning before the ceremony, had my suitcase in the trunk, so I simply drove back home without looking back. The drive home was like 2.5 hours, and I spent it alternating between laughing like a maniac and crying like the world had ended. Because the thing is, yes, I had gotten revenge. I had destroyed Victoria's wedding and exposed everyone in front of a bunch of people, but that didn't change the fact that they had betrayed me. 8 years with Brandon, 8 years of my life that simply went in the trash. All my youth, my 20s, I gave them to someone who was cheating on me and probably laughing at me with my supposed friends. When I got to my apartment, the first thing I did was change the locks. I called an emergency locksmith, paid him extra to come immediately, and by 11 at night, Brandon no longer had a way to get in. Then I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on the couch with my 2 cats, and started checking my phone. I had like 100 messages and 50 missed calls, most from Brandon but also from the friend group. I read them all, each one more pathetic than the last. Melissa wrote me saying that I had ruined Victoria's life, that I was a horrible person, that I should never have done that. James told me I was a dramatic bitch who couldn't let people be happy. Others in the group basically blamed everything on me, like it was my responsibility to keep Brandon happy. That's why he cheated on me. But Brandon's message was the best, the most hypocritical of all. He wrote me a complete testament saying that I had destroyed Victoria's life, that she now had nothing, that William had left her and it was all my fault. That's when I found out something super interesting. It turns out Victoria's marriage wasn't real. Well, it was going to be legal, but it wasn't for love or anything like that. It was a financial arrangement. William knew Victoria didn't love him. He didn't love her. But he needed to get married to be able to receive his full inheritance or something like that from his family, and Victoria needed the money. They had agreed to an open marriage where each could do whatever they wanted. Basically, Victoria was going to receive a considerable amount of money just for marrying him and staying married for a certain time. But apparently, William had a clause in the contract that said if Victoria publicly humiliated him or ruined his reputation, the deal was cancelled. And guess what? I basically activated that clause when I exposed her affair in front of all his friends and family. So yeah, technically I ruined Victoria's master plan to get easy money. And honestly, I didn't feel even a little bit bad about it. Brandon was telling me in his message that I was selfish, that I didn't think about anyone but myself, that I had destroyed Victoria's future just out of spite. And I read all that and thought, seriously? Are you telling me this? Who cheated on me for who knows how long? Is the guy who lived in my house, ate my food, slept in my bed while sleeping with my best friend telling me this? I wrote him only one message back. You have a week to come for your things when I'm not home. I'm going to leave you a copy of the key with the doorman. After that, everything you leave, I'm going to donate or throw away. Don't try to contact me ever again. And I blocked the entire friend group. Except Brandon because I needed him to come for his things. But after that, I was going to block him forever too. The next few days were weird. Like, I was in a cloud of shock mixed with relief, mixed with sadness. I cried at random moments, like I was making coffee, and suddenly, I would start crying. My parents came to visit me. My mom hugged me and told me she was proud of me for not letting them walk all over me. My dad said if he saw Brandon on the street, he would probably hit him. My dad is super calm normally, so that was intense. My siblings also called me to support me. Basically, my whole family went into protection mode, and that helped a lot. Brandon came for his things like 9 days later. I made sure not to be home. I went to my parents' house all day. But when I came back, I realized he had left a note. It was another long letter where he basically blamed me for everything, saying that if I had been a better girlfriend, he would never have needed to look for affection elsewhere, that I was too focused on my work, that we never had time together, that the affair with Victoria had started because I was cold and distant. I read the whole letter, tore it into small pieces, and threw it in the trash. But I couldn't help thinking about what it said. Had I been a bad girlfriend? Was it really my fault that he cheated on me? I spent several days turning that over in my head until my mom sat me down and told me, Olivia, nothing you do or don't do justifies someone cheating on you. If he wasn't happy, he should have talked to you or ended the relationship, not betrayed you and lied to you for months. And she was right, honestly. Yes, maybe I wasn't perfect, maybe I worked too much or wasn't affectionate enough or whatever, but that didn't give Brandon the right to sleep with my best friend and much less for my entire friend group to laugh at me. Then I realized something important. I needed to talk to Brandon one last time. Not to reconcile or anything like that, but to close that chapter completely. I sent him a message telling him to come to the apartment on a specific date because we needed to talk. He arrived on time. He looked terrible, honestly, with dark circles and wrinkled clothes, and I opened the door and let him in. I told him everything I needed to tell him. I told him he had broken my heart, that he had destroyed 8 years of trust and love, that I was never going to be able to forgive him. I told him that the letter he left me was manipulative garbage, where he tried to make me feel guilty for his own actions. I told him I wasn't perfect, but that he was a coward who I didn't have the courage to end the relationship before starting to cheat on me. And I told him that I really hoped someday he would feel even a fraction of the pain I felt when I saw them in my car. Brandon tried to defend himself, said that our thing hadn't been working for a while, that he knew I was never going to be happy with him because he didn't want to get married yet, that Victoria understood him better. He started saying that technically the affair was my fault too, because I pressured him too much about marriage and that pushed him away. And that's when I told him to leave. I literally told him, "Get out of my house right now, or I'm calling the police." He got angry, started yelling that I was dramatic, that I exaggerated everything, but I stood firm at the door and didn't move until he left. That night, I blocked him from all my social media, blocked his number, blocked everything. I deleted all our photos together from my Instagram and my phone, donated or threw away everything that reminded me of him, basically did a complete cleaning of my life. It was cathartic, honestly. I also stopped following everyone from the friend group, blocked them, basically acted like they had never existed. The first few months were difficult. I'm not going to lie. I had to rebuild my entire social life because my complete circle of friends had disappeared from one day to the next. I started going to the gym. First, just to distract myself, but then because I realized it made me feel good. Like it helped me process all the anger and sadness. I started writing in a journal. Another thing I had never done, but that my therapist recommended. Yes, I started therapy because I obviously needed to process all this with professional help. I also focused much more on work. My dad's company had been growing, and I started taking on more responsibilities, getting more involved in important decisions. It was good to have something productive to focus my energy on instead of being all day thinking about Brandon and Victoria and what they might be doing. My parents supported me a ton during this whole process. They were always there when I needed to talk or when I had a bad day. Fast forward to 2 years later, meaning now, I would active in. My life is completely different. Physically, I'm in the best shape of my life. I go to the gym 5 days a week and I really love it. It makes me feel strong and in control. Professionally, I'm thriving. I basically run almost the entire company now, and we're expanding to 2 new cities. My dad constantly tells me he's proud of me, that I'm a better leader than he ever was. And coming from him, that means everything. Like 6 months ago, I found out from mutual acquaintances that Brandon and Victoria ended up together, which didn't surprise me at all, honestly. Apparently, they got married like 8 months after the ruined wedding, like super fast, but they got divorced before completing a year. From what I heard, Victoria is still trying to find another rich man to support her, and Brandon lives with his parents because he can't afford a place alone. Part of me felt satisfaction when I found out about that. I'm not going to lie, but most of me just felt nothing. Like, I don't care about them anymore. They're part of a closed chapter of my life. 3 months ago, I started dating someone new. His name is Daniel. I met him at the gym of all things, and he's completely different from Brandon. For starters, he's honest, like brutally honest sometimes. He tells me when something bothers him instead of keeping it to himself, and I do the same. We talk about our life expectations from the beginning. He also wants to get married and have kids eventually. But we're not in a hurry. We're taking things calmly and really getting to know each other. The main difference is that with Daniel, I feel safe. You know, I don't have that constant anxiety I had with Brandon, where I always felt something wasn't right, but couldn't identify what. With Daniel, everything is clear. There are no mind games, no secrets. He met my family last month and they got along super well. My parents adore him. My siblings say he's a solid guy. That gives me hope. Honestly, that not all men are like Brandon. That honest and good people do exist. I'm not going to say everything is perfect now, or that what happened doesn't affect me anymore. Sometimes I have nightmares about finding Brandon with Victoria. Sometimes I hear a song we used to listen to together and I get sad. Sometimes I see couples who have been together a long time and I wonder what my life would have been like if Brandon had been faithful. But those moments are less and less frequent, and when they happen, I know how to deal with them better. My therapist tells me I did something important when I exposed Brandon and Victoria at the wedding, that I took back my power in a situation where they had completely taken it away from me. I don't know if that's true, or if I simply acted out of pure rage, but I don't regret having done it. Yes, it was dramatic. Yes, I probably ruined the day for a bunch of people who had nothing to do with it, but I also defended myself in a way I had never done before in my life. Last week, Daniel asked me if I was ever going to tell him the whole Brandon story. I had given him general details, but never the complete story. We sat on my couch, ordered Chinese food, and I told him everything from beginning to end. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment and then said, "I understand why you have trust issues. I would too, after something like that. But I want you to know I'm going to work every day to show you that we're not all the same." And that simple phrase gave me more peace than everything I had heard in the last 2 years. I don't know what's going to happen with Daniel and me. Maybe it'll work out and maybe it won't. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I have a real chance to be happy with someone who values and respects me. I no longer spend my days waiting for someone to decide if I'm enough to commit to, because now I know that I am enough, with or without a partner. I've rebuilt my life in a way that makes me feel proud of myself. And that's something Brandon and Victoria are never going to be able to take away from me. So yes, They cheated on me, lied to me, betrayed me in the worst possible way, but I survived and came out stronger on the other side. And that ruined wedding, that dramatic moment where I exposed everything in front of 200 people, was the beginning of my process of healing and finding myself again. I'm not going to say it was easy or that I would recommend it, but for me it worked. It gave me the closure I needed and allowed me to start over without carrying the anger and pain of having been the silent victim. And honestly, seeing them all with those faces of absolute shock was worth every awkward second that came after.